Good morning.
Good morning. I'm Hannah, and I'm a baby and toddler speech therapist. I created something called Daisy Plays, inspired by my 3-year-old Daisy.
We're taught from one, this is what they'll say.
We're dying to hear those first words, but they'll never come if you don't have the foundations before that. If you see a baby, the first thing you do is you're like, hello. It's called parentese. The more a child hears parentese before 1, the more developed their understanding and their use of words by 2. You can cut the communication-related tantrums.
Because mothers are being told what's wrong and what's right. And I was like, is there really a wrong or right? Or is it just
I know.
do what you want?
The ABCs, the 1, 2, 3s songs, they're beautiful and we love them. But it's not going to help them in their day-to-day communication. My almost 2-year-old can't count to 10. And I'm like, I'm a speech therapist, Of course he can't count to 10.
If there was say 5 words that we as parents think actually that's really beneficial for them to learn in the early stages. Is that very normal for communication?
It's persisting beyond 2 years, 3 years. Okay, there might be an issue there. They might need a little bit of help. Or it doesn't have to look like a one-to-one therapy session and it's going to cost me an absolute fortune. It doesn't need to look like that at all.
I don't know what is the right and wrong here. And she was like, oh yeah, you're fine.
Every child will get to a certain stage in their own time. Let's take our grow bag off, zip down. Hi, Handy. Hello.
Can you come to my house?
We're not putting pressure on our children to speak.
A child responds better through nursery rhymes and songs rather than holding cards up. Are they still learning?
100%. I would be anti-cards. Get away from the cards.
There is a little machine that's going all over my TikTok.
By kind of 2 years, they're starting to say,
you're blowing my mind right now. We put too much pressure on speech, and should we be saying, let it be for the moment. Keep doing what you're doing. Yeah. Don't over panic. Good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
Good afternoon here, but good morning to you.
Good morning to me. It's only 8:30, and I feel like I've lived 5 lives. My kids have gone to school. I've made breakfast, lunches, showered. I'm doing a podcast.
Life of a mum.
I know.
Of a working mum.
Exactly.
So for everyone listening, introduce yourself. What do you do?
Yeah, it's for sure. So I'm Hannah. I am a speech and language therapist, and I'm a baby and toddler speech therapist, which is a little bit more unique. So a lot of the time we deal with age ranges, in school and teenagers and adults and everything. But I started specializing in early intervention and kind of baby and speech development maybe about 6 years ago now, and loved the area because saw how much of an impact that you could make for parents and for families. So I started working with parents of babies and toddlers only, and then realized I was doing the same thing in every session and every consultation call, and thought, why not make a little course, something online for parents that they can, watch in their own time, but learn the exact same strategies and the outcomes be exactly the same. So I then created something called Daisy Plays, inspired by my 3-year-old Daisy. I now have a son, Sam, so I need a companion product or else I'm going to have to change the name because I don't think Sam and Daisy Plays sounds as good. But Daisy Plays is, it's an online platform for parents where they can learn about how they can help develop their little one's speech and language. And a lot of people will think, oh, well, that's just if my, toddler has a delay, or I don't need that yet. My child is doing great. Actually, just almost like a general information, but guided by clinical evidence. You can start from infancy. So it's to give parents that insight into little tweaks that they can make to try and help them develop their child's speech and language from birth, quite literally.
Because that's the thing, isn't it? I think we all just kind of go with the flow, especially when it's your first child. Yeah. And you think, okay, well, when it gets to a year old, that's when you go, what your first word is going to be. And I think that's because that's what we're taught. Online, we're taught from 1, this is what they'll say. But actually, you're saying that we can incorporate things from birth that can help their language.
It starts way before that, because first words is just one part of communication. And yes, we love them. We're dying to hear those first words. But they'll never come if you don't have the foundations before that. And sometimes those foundations aren't worked on too early and it's kind of later. And that's sometimes why delayed talking can happen. And there's lots of reasons as to why someone might be a delayed talker. But often it's because they just haven't been exposed to kind of what helps develop language. So, I try and teach how you can incorporate things into your day-to-day with your baby to try and get those fundamental skills. So the ones that are really important that come far before first words. So you want to make sure your baby has good eye contact, that they're able to imitate your sounds, imitate your facial expressions, that they can pay attention to something, that they can listen to something, because all of these are the foundations for communication. Communication, it's really made on like this back and forth interaction, which parents will naturally do with babies. If you see a baby, the first thing you do is you're like, hello, and you're in their face and you're chatting, and it comes naturally to us, and it's such a beautiful way of communicating, and it's actually clinically proven that it helps develop language as well. So it's called parentese. Used to be called motherese, and then they've changed it now to parentese. And it's basically just speaking in this lovely, like, sing-song, lovely, emotionally charged rhythm. And babies are really attuned to it. So they hear it. Because if you're just boring and you're talking, hi, baby, how you doing? They're not going to be interested in that. Your facial expression is mundane. There's no smiling. There's no intonation. There's no slowing down so they can grasp onto the sounds. So it's really important to kind of, speak in that tone, which a lot of us naturally do, but then we stop. We kind of have that at our initial, like when we see baby in the morning, or, when we're out on a walk, we might give them a little kind of like, hi, or a little, there's the trees, there's the doggy. But then we kind of stop. We don't say much else. And it's just about kind of keeping it going when you are communicating with your baby, keeping that nice parentese style going, because there's actually so much research on it. But one I just recently read is that the more a child hears parentese, tone of voice, before 1, the more developed their understanding and their use of words by 2. So you can kind of, sit happily knowing that if you're using that and that they're, consistently hearing it, that they will have a better vocabulary by age 2, which is that age where those beautiful tantrums are happening, and you can try and eliminate any of the communication related tantrums. So I'm not talking about dysregulation or, any issues with attachment. And that's beyond my realm, and toddlers will tantrum. Unfortunately, that's the way they are.
Yeah.
But you can cut the communication related tantrums. And there's a lot of those that are related to the frustration when they just can't get their needs or wants met. They don't have the words. They don't have, the ability to try and get their needs or wants met. So that's why it's really important in the early months and the first year of life to really work on those foundation skills. So when the time first words happens, it's easy for them to learn it. They know. They learn through imitation because they've been imitating you through infancy. They've been copying your facial expressions and your sounds and your raspberries, and they giggle and you giggle, and this gorgeous back and forth interaction, which is just so important for communication. That's fundamentally what it's made of. Nobody wants a one-sided conversation. Nobody just wants to hear da, da, da from this side and nothing from this. So trying to create that lovely back and forth interaction is important in those kind of first 12 months.
Yeah, I think also there's so much like contradicting advice. So I know there's a lot of talk about sign language and helping kids before they're 1 with sign language. And I was like, oh, this is great. So if they can't talk yet, if he wants more, he'll do it. But then I saw this other article and it was like, oh no, baby sign language isn't any good because then they'll start to use that and they won't speak instead. And I'm like, this is such a minefield because mothers are being told what's wrong and what's right. And I was like, is there really a wrong or right? Or is it just do what you want? And does it help,
Sure. Well, look, there's so much contradictory information out there. And again, like you always want to look at the evidence, like look at the research articles. So there is nothing to suggest that using baby sign or American Sign Language or sign language or whatever it is will take away from spoken language. So actually, there's a lot of evidence to suggest that it will support spoken language. So, if you can incorporate sign language into your day-to-day, then it's wonderful because children will often learn it more easily than first words because they're able to imitate gestures before they can imitate sounds and words. So we would often use, especially with a delayed speaker, we would often say, well, let's start introducing signs and let's introduce a few functional signs where they will be able to get their needs and wants met. Because when I say functional, it means like, how can you help that baby or that toddler request something or let their parent know that they need something? So like, what are the most functional words to use? And again, just going slightly off sign for a second, I feel some people think that, my baby can count to 10, my baby can sing or say ABCs, they can sing an entire nursery rhyme. And that's really nice. That's so impressive. Like for a mum and a dad to hear that, you're like, oh, you're so proud of your baby.
Yeah.
But it's not going to help them in their day-to-day communication when they want to tell you no, when they want to request that they want something else or they want more of something. It's not going to
Yeah.
help them when they need your help with something, or they want to alert your attention by an uh-oh. Like those, the ABCs, the 1, 2, 3s songs, they're beautiful and we love them. And they do help foster communication, but we do say to kind of stay away from teaching baby those until they have their functional words, until they have those few words that will actually help them get their needs and their wants met.
That's so interesting, because you see on social
Yeah.
media, don't you? And you go, oh
Yeah.
God, my child can't do that. Is that really shit?
I know. I'm like, oh no, my child can't count to 10. That's awful. I mean, my almost 2-year-old can't count to 10. And I'm like, I'm a speech therapist, you know? I'm never focused on counting to 10. Like, of course he can't count to 10. I've never counted to 10 with him. So, I mean, I have, but I haven't focused on it. So it's lovely, but it's not important. You want to be sure they can get their needs and their wants met. And that's why we say these functional words that you want to teach baby, and ones that are meaningful for them. You know, if they have a nana living in their house, you want to make sure that nana is one of the first words they have too, so they can get nana's attention. You know, it's not all about mama or dada, or, you know, a sibling or a dog or something that will get somebody's attention, you know, so you really want those functional words. But just quickly going back to the sign language, it is a really great way to try and help baby develop communication, because they have more information on something because they can see it. So there's kind of that nice, the motor movement, there's that visual cue for them. And then if you say the word, there's an auditory cue as well. So for example, you know, the common one that we all see toddlers do is this more sign. And whenever they want more, a lot of the time they'll say more. And if you incorporate that whenever you are giving your baby a little bit of milk or some water or their snack, or if they're playing with something, and you just start more and bring that in and you're saying it and signing it, it is likely they'll actually learn it more quickly than just on its own if you were to say the word more. So there is a lot of evidence to suggest that it's really helpful for developing communication. And a lot of children who aren't yet at the first word level, they will acquire sign language more easily. So it's great. And it certainly does not take away from the spoken word. I think that's more of a kind of like back in the day. Like, I feel like maybe that's something one of our parents might say, like, oh, don't do that because then they won't learn to talk. You know? Really? Just make that up? Because it's not true.
So what would you say in terms of if there was, like, say, 5 words that we should, as parents, think actually that's really beneficial for them to learn in the early stages?
Yeah, I love that. And I often go through that even like on my Instagram and when I have my newsletters and things. So the top 5, I guess, that would come. I think more is a great one. More is super good because they can request more of anything, whether it's a snack, playtime, they want to stay in the bath longer, whatever it is, they can request more of. I think uh-oh is a great one as well, because uh-oh alerts a parent's attention. Have they spilled something? Have they knocked something? Have they, you know, have something gotten dirty? What's happened? So I think uh-oh is a really great one. And it's very easily taught because it's shaped from those kind of babbles and vowels that naturally occur in the first year of life. So uh-oh is great. And often if you incorporate uh-oh, so everything in our house is always uh-oh. When something fell, it was uh-oh. When we would see something funny, we'd say uh-oh, or it was everything. And my Sam, I can't remember with Daisy. It's terrible when you have your second one. I now don't remember Daisy's milestones this month. I remember with Sam, he was saying it at about 9 or 10 months. You know, he was just like, because he heard it so often. So I think uh-oh is a great one. I also think help is a really good one too. And just even if they have any approximation of help. So again, you're not expecting a baby to say words perfectly at all. Babies will simplify and toddlers will simplify words. It's a naturally occurring process so that they can say them, because it's too difficult for them to articulate words. So they're not going to say help, but they might say hep, or they might say ha or something. And then you'll start knowing, he keeps saying that every time he wants me to come over when he's trying to build a tower, or that he wants to open a box or open a door or put on his shoes. And so then you start realizing that that's what the word means. And even when it's not produced correctly, it's still a word if they're using it consistently and on their own. So I think help is a really, really good one too.
You've actually just answered someone else's question, which was...
I did?
Good. In conjunction with the 5 words that we're talking about, was that their child is saying words, but they're not quite clear. And they all kind of sound the same. Is that very normal for communication?
Very normal, especially in that earlier part of of toddlerhood. So before kind of 18 months, particularly, so many of the words can sound the same because they're not yet able to discriminate a lot of the sounds, and they're not able to produce a lot of the sounds. The more they hear a word, the more accurately they will start producing it. But also, there are just words that just don't develop clearly until they're 2-year-old, 3-year-old, even 4-year-old.
Yeah.
Like, for example, an R, you'll never hear a toddler pronounce an R. That'll be pronounced when they're, 6-year-olds, even sometimes 7 can be appropriate.
Wow.
And then a child might say, instead of saying cat, they might say tats. And that's perfectly normal. It's called fronting. And that doesn't really develop until about 2.5. So a lot of them are completely appropriate. And then other ones, they might not be appropriate. So it might be, oh, that's a very strange way of saying a sound. And it persists, even though the parent might model it every time the correct way. It's persisting beyond 2 years, 3 years. Okay, there might be an issue there. They might need a little bit of help. So, and that can be gained by a clinical assessment. So if you are worried that, okay, I kind of have a 3-year-old, their speech is very unclear. People don't understand what they're saying. They're looking to me when they're talking. I understand, but they don't understand. It still probably would warrant an assessment just to see if there's any speech therapy needed.
Yeah.
But for the likes of a younger toddler, a lot of the sounds will sound the same. So, for example, my son, his juice, cheese, and shoes were all exactly the same, and they were kind of like a juice chew, like a chew, the chew sound.
Yeah.
So his cheese would be a chew, his shoes were a chew, which sometimes I thought was cheese, and his juice would be a chew as well.
Yeah.
This was kind of about 6 months ago. And I was like, oh, which one? Like juice, cheese, or shoes?
Yeah. All three.
So yeah, there's a bit of problem solving. But over time you just model and then, they begin to say it correctly. And then sometimes that's even sad. Like my son used to say opo and now he says open. And I'm like, don't say open.
I don't think I'm ready. I'm ready for this stage.
Sometimes you're not ready, and it's okay too. Like, it's okay if they have their own little words, as long as they're being understood by you and by others, and it's not causing frustration. That's okay, and all these little kind of they're developmental processes. It's called phonological processes or speech sound development. Nobody needs to know about it, but just to know that it's perfectly normal in the first couple of years of life. Yeah, a lot of perfectly normal.
So we've got help, and more.
Yeah, more. Yes, exactly.
Last two.
And yeah, the last two, definitely a greeting. So a hi and a bye, because you can just also start with waving. Yeah. And they're brilliant ones because you can say hi to anything. It's not just about greeting people. You can greet your teddies. You can greet the birds in the morning. You can greet your cup when you sit at your high chair. You get everything. Like, we say hi to everything. And the same with bye. Like, if we're leaving a place or a room, we'll say, bye kitchen or bye playgroup or whatever it is. Like, we'll say bye. So it's not, you don't have to kind of restrict it just to people or anything. So I think hi and bye would definitely be a good kind of fourth, like greetings would be a really good one. And then, I mean, yes and no kind of develop pretty early as well anyway. But again, yes and no give you so much information. So you want your child, whether it's going to be a nod of the head or a shake of the head, you want to give them that autonomy to be able to say yes and no from as early on as possible. So even sometimes answering your own question, like, would you like a banana? And they are kind of looking at you like with this bright eyes, which is showing you yes, but they can't yet say it. They might be, 10 months or young. Yes, banana, yes. And kind of just modeling it for them and answering your own question. So I think yes and no as well are, super helpful. And then of course you've got all the, functional ones and meaningful ones for that baby. So the mama dada, you want to make sure they can say mama dada if they love a bottle or a blanket or a certain particular item. It's important to incorporate that into. So I actually do have a first words list, and even it's something that we can link that parents can download. And it's the first 100
absolutely.
First word. No, not first 100. First, that's my new one, which is not out yet. It's the first 40 first words that I recommend working on.
Yeah. And I think this is a tricky one because someone's asking, what should my child be saying by kind of age 2? And I know even with my own son at the moment, he understands everything. He's so knowledgeable of what's going on.
Yeah.
But communicating that, I mean, it's getting better, but it's definitely compared to other kids that I know or on social media.
Yeah.
He's definitely, I thought he was behind, and I did call up my health visitor and I said, look, I don't know what is the right and wrong here.
Sure.
And I was telling her what he could and couldn't say. And I was saying how it tends to be on his own accord. He's not one of these kids where you go, what's this? And then he'll say it because he's seen it on a card,
Sure.
and she was like, oh yeah, you're fine. And I was like, so I think it's such a tricky one for you to answer, because at the end of the day, I think all of us mums are thinking, oh God, is it something we're doing wrong, or should my child do this? And,
I know. And there's so much information out there that makes it so hard to try and grasp actually what's important, what do I need to know, and what's irrelevant, and what's just kind of adding more stress to my day to day.
Yeah.
And I think as well, when I talk about language development, it's not to put the weight of the world on a parent's shoulders. It's actually the opposite. It's to show them that the simplest ways of speaking to your baby and these really simple techniques are actually founded on years of science, and they work. And so you're trying to let them know it's not that I'm trying to say, oh, and parents should do A, B, and C, and that's going to make your child Einstein. It's more that you have the power to tweak what you're already doing. So, every day we dress our babies, we feed our babies, we spend some amount of time either in the car or on a walk with our babies. If we have the time, we might be able to sit down and play with them for a few minutes. So we're doing these things anyway. And I'll get back to your question in a minute. But we are doing these things anyway. So it's like, I have to put his socks on and his shoes on. But can I add something, an extra layer that's actually going to support his language development at the same time? And that's what I'm trying to teach parents, is that you already have the power, because you spend time, or whatever caregiver is spending time with baby, they have the power to change kind of that speech and language trajectory. Because if they know what they can say and how to interact and what babies are attuned to, then they're able to develop at a much faster pace. And it's true. The evidence is there. They will develop language more quickly. And I see it with my children. And it's terrible, because then you start, I have 2 kids. They're 2 years apart. I'm a speech therapist. So all of a sudden you start comparing as well. You're wondering, like, what was Daisy doing at that age? Is Sam doing it at this age? Which is it's so wrong. And it's so worrying to get yourself into that kind of cycle. I think it's just natural as a parent that we compare. But if you know what your child is doing and they're happy and it's working for you, like, the comparison, oh my God, it's a desperate way to be, and to look at these people online and say, oh my God, their child can do that. And
it can be overwhelming.
Oh my goodness. I used to, when I would see children going down slides and things, and my daughter was terrified of going down slides, I'd be like, why can't she go down a slide? Every child will get to a certain stage in their own time. And we're not debating that, but we're debating the stress, and we're debating the difficult and the challenges that, difficult times and the challenges that any delay can bring. So even though, yes, many children will catch up, if you have a child who's slightly behind, there's a lot of research out there saying that they may catch up on their own. So about 60 to 70% of kids will catch up on their own. They'll be on par with their peers by school. 30 to 40% won't. So they're going to need support. They're going to need something to try and help develop language at home. But the children that have those kind of early delays, or their language isn't as strong as it should be, they're not meeting their milestones, there is that knock-on effect. So there's knock-on effect in your day-to-day. So that's just general ease. It's harder. Parenting is harder. And life is harder for a child that can't communicate. They're not able to get their needs and wants met. There's frustration there. Mums and dads aren't quite sure what's going on. So it's just a general day-to-day. It's harder. But as well as that, and having a happier child, your literacy, your academia, and your social skills in school have been proven to be better when you have earlier language acquisition.
Because I have no, carry on.
No, just that's really interesting and important to know. So I always say, if you are concerned, or if you are, and comparison is terrible, we never want to compare our kids. But if we're seeing somebody and they seem to be at a certain level, and we feel that our child isn't, and in our day-to-day, it's causing a little bit more frustration than maybe you would have thought, or yes, actually, that was related to me not understanding what he was trying to say, or that was related to him not having the words, then it's always good just to get some help and seek advice and see, okay, well, what can I do? And there's so many forums online. There's online courses. You can see a speech therapist. There's so much that you can do. And we always say, like, don't wait and see, because if you wait and see, it can build up and you can get to a point where then there's, intensive therapy needed. If you check and see, then maybe it just needs like a few little small supports throughout the day, and it'll get them, straight up to where they need to be. So the wait and see is kind of going against everything that we learn about early intervention is key. Wait and see can be a little bit more detrimental, because we don't want to have to wait and see for the child's sake, because if they could have the skills and the knowledge now, why not give it to them? Especially if it's just something that we can learn and pass on. So I
Yeah.
do generally say, I mean, never compare, because comparison is the worst. And, I was saying I compare my kids and it's terrible. We just do it. I don't know why we do it. We just do it. But just looking at them, where they're at, meeting them where they're at, taking it at that level, not starting at a level above, well, you should be here, so we're going to start working on this. Taking it at the level that they're at and working on them. I think it is important, because it will just give them more independence and more autonomy. And it'll just make your life generally a little bit easier, kind of knowing what you can do to help.
Yeah, because I've never really looked at kind of milestones when it came to speech.
Yeah.
But you do notice it when, like, my son will want something and he won't know the word for it, and he'll kind of be like, like this, and then it will end up into a full-blown tantrum. And I'm thinking, I'm not so fussed on like, oh God, I've got to get him to speak because everybody else is doing it. I'm just like, he's struggling, and he's finding it hard because he can't communicate. And that's where I think a lot of the kind of, he doesn't really tantrum, he doesn't really have that temperament. But when he does, it's always to do with the confusion of how he cannot get across how he's feeling or what he wants. And I think it's especially when people say they should be saying all these words by age 2. And I'm like, well, what if he doesn't? And what if after age 2, then he says it? And I've spent the last 3 months or whatever month, however months it is, worrying. And then by age 2, he said it anyway. So it's not really a big deal. It's just, God,
it's a minefield. It's an absolute minefield. And I think parents know, because you know in your gut when it's important to try and seek support, and when you kind of feel we're doing okay. And again, support doesn't have to look like a one-to-one therapy session, and I have to go every single week, and it's going to cost me an absolute fortune, and my child hates speech therapy. It doesn't need to look like that at all. It can just be gaining support yourself. Like a lot at this age is parent coaching. So we work more so with the parents than we do with the children, and we're trying to guide the parents, because the parent is with their child 99.9% of the time, maybe even 100. So, a speech therapist doesn't know them like a parent does. A speech therapist doesn't know what they're interested in, what motivates them, what's going to get them communicating, what words are important to learn. A parent really knows that, but with the guidance of a speech therapist, with kind of, clinically proven strategies that are super simple, I think that, that can make a world of difference. But you need to be at that place where you're also like ready to do it, and that you're, want to engage in it, and you feel that like it's something that you want to take part in. Otherwise, it becomes a stress and a burden, and you don't want that. Oh, I have to sit down now for 20 minutes. Like we never want that.
That's the thing, isn't it? Because we're all so busy, and it's like, it's finding out how, good for the women that can sit down and do these kind of homeschooling books and stuff. Yeah. What? I wish I could.
Yeah.
But what can we do on a day-to-day life? Like you said, when we're putting on our shoes, say on, and kind of to be able to not have sit down and have this detailed session of language learning. And how can we incorporate that into daily life where we're not stressing out, because it's just your day. You're just going through your day and you're adding it in.
Exactly. And that's everything that I am behind. It's just your day. You're doing it already. So I am not asking you to sit down. So I will sit down and I will play with my kids, because it's just been part of me for so long. I've done it in clinic and I do it at home and I enjoy it. And I also am creating content. So I think people need to realize sometimes I don't want to be there, but I have to sit down because this is my job. And I'm trying to demonstrate to parents when they're sitting down, this is what you can do to play with your kids. Yeah. But aside from the playing, and aside from the toys, and aside from the book reading, if you are doing your day-to-day routine, so you're getting up in the morning and you're going in the door and you're saying, good morning, let's get up, we'll open the curtain, hi, birdies. So you're literally talking about what you're doing in really simple language. Any airplanes? No airplanes. And you're keeping your speech really light, really kind of melodic, really happy, so that your child is interested. Because that's a huge contrast to walking into the room, picking baby up, taking the grow bag off, opening the curtains, and not saying anything, or just saying, your brother's downstairs, come on, we need to go, or whatever it is. Yeah. It makes a huge difference. Let's take our grow bag off, zip down. Hi, Handy. Hi, Leg. And honestly, it's as simple as that.
Can you come to my house?
You'll see that they engage so well. They are they are just looking at you. And it's still, even though that's my typical way of speaking to my toddler, and when I'm interacting with him, he's still mesmerized by it. And he's 20 months now. He's 20 months. And he's not, he's not like, oh, you're a mad woman, because sometimes he can sound a little mad if you overdo it. But when you kind of keep it chill enough, he's just holding on to every word you're saying. You can see him because it's so exciting for him. And then you've got your socks on, and then you could, be playful, put a shoe on a hand and be like, no, silly shoe. Oh, just being really playful with them, making it exciting. And that's not actually adding any extra time. Again, people will say, oh, that's, I just need to get my child dressed. I have another child hanging off my leg. It's not adding any extra time. You have to do these things anyway. You're opening the curtains anyway. You're opening the blinds. You're taking off the sleep sack or whatever it is. So you're doing it anyway. And it's the same, at mealtime. And you can even offer them, start giving choices. Do you want your spoon or do you want your fork? Or if they have a truck spoon and a airplane spoon, you're going to ask them which one do they want. And you're not expecting them to answer. So you're not asking any questions or giving choices on a basis where they have to answer you. It's actually just to model the words. You're using it as a platform to model words. And then any kind of response for them is warranted and taken as a response. So if they look at a particular fork or knife, that's the one you give.
Right.
Spoon, here you go. Or if they kind of make a movement towards one, or if they're pointing or grunting, anything at all. We're not saying, oh, you have to say the word and then we'll give it to you. That's the last thing we're trying to do. We're not putting pressure on our children to speak. We're creating an environment where we model words and then they learn them from that in their own time when they're ready. We continue to model until they're ready to say it themselves. So it's really about just making sure that we're patient as well, and that we're not just say this, say that, what's this, what color is this? It's the worst thing we can do. I mean, I don't like getting quizzed and questioned. I cannot imagine that a child, a toddler wants to be quizzed or questioned. So even though we want to, because we want to try and elicit a response, like sometimes I even myself will catch myself being like, what's this? And then I'm like, oh, stop. I tell everybody every day to stop doing that. Well, sometimes we do want a response because we want to hear it. It's just naturally within parents. But it's just really important. We don't need to hear it. That's for our own kind of, for our own ego, because we're like so delighted that they said it. We're like, yes, they can say it. They know it. Especially when a neighbor comes in or a granny, we're like, say this, sing your song. Like, we're so happy. Why? Like, for why? It's for our own ego. So really, we want to change that. And we just want to create an environment where words are modeled for our babies and our toddlers in a really simple way.
It's really interesting, actually, because someone wrote here, and I actually really resonate with this because I'm a musician, and I had to learn a song. And obviously, the way I learn it, obviously, is reading the music, but then I will listen to it over and over and over again. And my son started to sing it, and he doesn't really say many words at all. And someone actually wrote here, I noticed that my child responds better through like nursery rhymes and songs rather than holding cards up and being like, what's this, dog? And is that still okay to kind of, are they still learning?
100%. So I would be anti-cards. Like, get away from the cards. You do not need them. For what purpose? So if you think about like a card, for example, or flashcard, they are just a picture on a card. They have no context. They're completely abstract. They can't feel it, touch it, smell it. They can't use it in real life. It's not incorporated into a sentence. It makes very little sense in the context of just a picture on a card. But if you were to say, hold up a card of a dog and there was a dog beside you, your child's going to be so much more interested in the dog. And you can still say the word dog. Hi, doggy. Let's pet doggy. Funny doggy. Tickle doggy. Whatever it is, repeat your words over and over again. A child does not I don't know any child that it's worked on where they want to sit in front of a flashcard and look at pictures and read them. If your child does, that's cool. But it's not a way that we help develop. We want to help develop language in real life situations.
Because there is a little machine that's going all over my TikTok. And I don't know if it's on your side TikTok as well. And you put the card in and then it will say a word and then it will say like the sound afterwards. And everyone's going, oh my God, it's improved my child's speech because they put the card in and then they're copying the sound. Is that helping them understand what they're saying, or are they just mimicking? And is that still okay?
So it's such a good question. And you've basically answered the question in the question. So it is not helping the child understand what the word really means, how to use it in context, and kind of the overall kind of picture of the word. They are just learning, oh, this picture means this, and I'm going to repeat it. Repeating something is very different to understanding something.
Yeah.
So, a child can repeat a lot of things. A child will repeat words that don't even exist. Like this morning when I was saying to my son, I was like, "You're a silly banilly." And he was like, "Silly banooey." And like, he doesn't know what that means. You know what I mean? He's imitating. He's imitating my words because he knows that's how he learns words, because that's how we've been doing it for so long. But he doesn't know what that word means. And so the same thing, if you're to go and to show them a picture, and then they, there's the sound coming from the picture, and then, whatever, they're making the sound after the word, and then the sound, they're just, like you said, they're just mimicking it. They're not really understanding what it means. Now, if it's being done over and over and over again, they might start translating, oh, that's a picture of a boat. And then I saw a boat, in the toy store, or I saw a boat in the lake or whatever. But that's too difficult. It's like you want them to understand what's going on in the moment, in kind of activities that they're interested in. That's another thing. A child's only going to learn when they're interested in something. And I just don't usually see children that are that interested in flashcards. They want to take part in something that's like motivating for them, and that's exciting, and that's, a preference. If they love airplanes, then they'll learn lots when you're playing with airplanes. I think it's more important just to do to engage in something that's interesting for them, motivating for them. And we say this a lot in the speech therapy world. We say follow their lead. And that just means like, don't have your own agenda. So even when it comes to a book, it's not important about getting to the next page. Like often a child might want to stay on a page and we're like, next page, and we're trying to, get through it. Let them stay on the page. Let them see what they see. Read the same page over and over. Don't read it and just use your own words, however you want to read the book. But, just follow their lead, because we don't need an agenda in play, and they don't learn through that either. So it is really important just to kind of follow their own lead too. But when you're going back to that question, the singing, that's amazing. And like you probably noticed that too with your family and your son, that when you're singing, how engaged they are. Like it really lights up that language part of the brain, because actually Parentese is kind of based on almost singing. It's got that bit of like a sing-song intonation about it. Lots of, exaggeration, emphasis, happiness, repetition. It's predictable. And children love that about songs. So they really engage with songs. And the best thing about songs, and you're probably great at it, is that you can make them up about anything.
Oh, yeah.
They can be one line long, but, if you turn anything into a song, children will love that. I also think they really help. In my house, they like diffuse a meltdown too. Like if they're super hungry and I'm trying to get the dinner ready, I'm like, just start like singing something about dinner. And then they're just like, oh, they really do diffuse meltdown.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think also it's like, at the moment, my son especially, he's kind of like, he'll say certain words, but a lot of it is like he'll talk to you and he'll just be in his own language, but he'll know exactly what he's saying because he'll repeat the same sounds. So I'm kind of in my brain, I'm like, okay, well, he obviously is trying to communicate. He's not just like rah, rah, rah. He's obviously trying to communicate something. And so what can we expect for each age group in terms of milestones, in terms of okay, from this age to this age, it would be ideal if they could say this, or it could be ideal if they say this many words, or they could understand what you're saying, even if they can't communicate it. But then if at this age they can't, maybe we should have a look kind of what, in terms of for mums who do like to know at this age, what can I expect in terms of each age group? What do you think milestones would be?
No, that's a great question. And again, the milestones are there to exist just to support parents and to know, when they might need to access support if they feel they're not meeting them. So they're not there to kind of dwell on too much. We don't want to be, okay, this is the milestone, your baby's not hitting it, that's terrible. That's not it at all. And the other thing as well, milestones have a really big range. So, you can still see two different children, like in a very difficult language profile, very different language profiles, and still be, classified as in the normal range, because the range is actually so vast. So for example, by about 12 months, you would want your baby to be saying like their first word. So, at 12 months, they might say mama, they might say ah, for an exclamation. They might say their first word, and that's
Also,
what we
not
want.
necessarily a physical word. It can be more of like a sound.
So absolutely. So a sound that represents something for them. So for example, if they drop something, they go, oh, every time they drop it. I'd take that as a word, because that's kind of like an uh-oh. They're saying it independently. So they've said it on their own. You haven't modeled it. You didn't go, oh, they did it themselves.
Yeah.
They say consistently. So they've dropped something again a few minutes later, or something happens. They go, oh, that, they're saying it consistently. So we can then say that, yeah, that's a word if it's used independently on their own, consistently, and then intentionally. So they intentionally mean to say it. They're not kind of in their own world, kind of just saying these random strings of words. That's considered a word. So by 12 months, we see between kind of 1 and 5 words. So that's what I mean by the range is very vast.
Very big.
Some child will have 1, one child will have 1, another child will have 5. They're both considered within,
because of course,
normal.
12 months to 2 years. I mean, the difference is just ridiculous.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Crazy. So then if you're getting up to like 18 months, you would see a child maybe have about 10 words, and they could have up to even 50 words. So by 18 months, they might have a 10 words. And that could be, so words again might be signs. So it might be a gesture. So you can say that that's like, a communicative word.
Yeah.
And then also it could be like a wow, like their words too, things that sometimes we overlook, or an animal sound. Maybe they see, a horse and they go, instead of saying the horse. Again, that's considered a word if they're using it consistently, intentionally, and independently.
You're blowing my mind right now. Because I think we just think words as words, don't we? We don't think of it as sounds and stuff.
We don't.
That's really put my mind at ease as well.
Yeah, we're expecting these perfect words, and that's not how it emerges in language. A lot of it will come in these different kind of sounds. We call them symbolic sounds.
Yeah.
And they're considered words. Yeah, when they have those 3 characteristics: intentional, independent, and consistent. So that's so by 18 months you would see that, and they're following 1-step directions, and they're understanding more than they can say by 18 months as well. And then by kind of 2 years, they're starting to say, they'll have anything from about 50 words, but they could have 200, 300 beyond words. So but once they're having 50, they're considered to be meeting their milestones. And if they can follow a 2-step direction. So you might say, hey, get your shoes and give them to mommy. So not just get your shoes. So you want to kind of get your shoes and give them to mommy, or get your shoes, put them on the chair. So you're doing 2-step directions they should be able to follow.
Yeah.
And then they start using, around kind of 2 years, they start using these really possessive pronouns like mine, me, mine. And, they start saying that a lot too. You'll notice that. And they say you as well. They start using those pronouns. But really, you're seeing about kind of anything at 2 years from like 50 to, kind of 300 words and beyond. And they'll likely be putting 2 words together as well. So they might say, hi, mama. Or they might say, more juice. So they're starting to put 2 words together as well. But you had a question earlier on, and she was saying, what types of words should my 2-year-old be saying? And I don't think I actually really addressed that. I got sidetracked some way.
So I keep going. I'm just fucking.
Yes, of course. But I got sidetracked. But I think the types of words your child will say depends on what they're exposed to. So whatever words you're using are the words that they're going to start learning. Whatever words are in your songs, whatever words you're saying during reading time, when you're talking to them on a day-to-day basis, they're the words that they're going to use. But often we really label like nouns. So we'll label like places, people, and things. So it'll be like dog, book, ball, blanket, mama. We're always labeling these things. And we might forget to add in like a descriptive word, like big ball, so we need to start adding in other words, or we might forget to add in some verbs like jumping, sleeping, talking, walking. So only when your child actually has a variety of word types will they actually be able to put 2 words together. So for example, if you like ball, they need to say big ball, small ball, blue ball, whatever it is. Otherwise, you can't put ball and blanket together. They don't make sense. So nouns don't go together. You need a variety of word types. So it's important not to kind of miss out on teaching them little verbs, which is just kind of like, you're sleeping, you're eating, you're doing words, your action words, and then your more descriptive words as well. Again, something I have a handout which we can link, but there's a variety of word types that you do need to learn. So it's just important to incorporate them into your day-to-day.
Yeah. And would you say in terms of, I know a lot of mums can turn around and someone will say, my baby can do this. And you go, well, my baby just tried to eat its sock. You know, there's such a different level. And is it a case of sometimes that we put too much pressure on speech? And should we be saying, you know, actually, this is a stage where we should just go, let it be for the moment and just keep doing what you're doing. Don't over panic, because I know that some of my friends, they were so worried about their child's speech, and they took them to specialists, and the specialist said, oh, they're fine. Like, you're absolutely fine. And then 2 months later, they really started catching on. And actually, as moms, we put so much stress on ourselves. We do everything, and we've got all this on our shoulders. And actually, is there a point where we should go, you know what, keep doing everything that you suggested, and there will be a breakthrough point where the child will suddenly go, bleh, and it will be loads of words, or it will start creeping in. Like, I've noticed our son, he slowly started just saying new words, and I'll be like, I didn't know you could do that. Like, it will just be random. Like, after our concert, I can't remember what he was trying to say. Oh, he was saying what? And we hadn't even been working on that word. And he just said, what? And now it's like repetition.
Exactly.
But it was just kind of, is there a level of, you know what, let's do all these things, but let's not stress ourselves out at the same time.
100%. Like, you know, at the end of the day, knowledge is power. So knowing what to do is important. But once you do know what to do, once you've got like a little bit of support, whether it's from reading the forums or looking online or taking a course, whatever it is you want to do, and you're like, you kind of have a grasp on this now. I kind of know what I need to do. I know what helps develop language, and you're doing it. Then it's just sitting back and knowing that the rewards will come, the outcomes will come, because it's made for outcomes. Like, it's proven. It's what we've been doing, you know, for years and years and years. It's what works. It's what we do with children who have a delay, as well as children who are on a typically developing trajectory. It works. So there is a time where you just don't let it take the joy out of parenthood and out of having a small child that is so much fun. You know, you don't want to put huge focus on it, because it is going to take the joy out. And also, that's, your child is going to feel that too. They're going to feel like they're almost in this learning station constantly, you know, where they have to be in this, I have to perform, I have to learn. That's the last thing we want to do. We just want to show parents, knowledge is power. We can empower you with the same strategies that we know that we have used on so many children to try and help them reach their language milestones. And then once you're doing that, the rewards will come. And if they don't, if you feel that there's something bigger going on, that this is bigger than language, that this might need somebody else to get involved, or I really need a one-to-one assessment because these generalized strategies aren't working, then go seek support and do it early, because, you know, it's important that children aren't left without the, you know, the ability to do things when it could possibly be there if they had the right support. So if there is a parent listening and saying, well, I've actually been engaging in kind of these strategies for months and months, or, you know, a year now, and I've seen no difference, and actually our day-to-day is really hard, there's a lot of frustration there, you know, there might be some other symptoms as well, then it's really important to, you know, not just kind of lose sight of those and make sure that you get them evaluated too. But if you feel that they're developing really well in, you know, all their categories, they're, you know, walking, they're somewhat sleeping, and they're eating somewhat again, you know, as much as toddlers do. And really, you just feel, you know, speech just needs a little bit of a push. We're not quite at where we want to be. There's so much support out there for the push. And actually, the parents are the ones that hold the crown to be able to give the push. So once the parents are coached in what to do, the difference that you can make in your day-to-day and for your child's life is honestly phenomenal. And that's why I'm so into it. Like, sometimes, you know, when work gets hard and busy, and I'm like, I'm a mom of 2 kids and it's so hard, and why am I doing this? And it's like, because I will get emails time and time again being like, you've no idea like what they just said today, or I was over in our nana's house and he did this, and all the things that they're doing, and how happy, you know, it makes families, and the difference it makes for the child, and settling into daycare and nursery and preschool. And it generally makes such a difference. And to me, I feel it's not difficult to adapt. It generally isn't if you know what you're doing. It's just you don't know what you're doing. It's like anything. It's like taking part in a workout class. You know, the first workout, you're like, this is impossible. And then when you learn the moves or the form, you're like, okay, I can do this. So it's it might seem daunting at the beginning, but it's really not at all. Like it works really, really well. So it's great.
Well, thank you so much for coming on today. Honestly, it's been so interesting because I think we see so much crap on social media and online. And actually it's put my mind at ease to know that it's not just like physical words and stuff. And it's been absolutely fascinating. It's been so lovely to talk to you today.
I'm so happy. I
can't believe how long we've been talking.
So lovely to be on. Thank you for asking me.
Oh, well, I really resonated with your page because it was much more kind of, how do you explain it? It's like, this is what you could do. And it's not regimented, and you're not a bad mum, or it's not all your fault. And I was just like, right, need to speak to you.
I'm so happy. Look, parenthood is hard and life is busy and we don't have time. But if you knew what you could do in the time you do have and things that you're already doing, I always say, like, would you not just want to try it and see the difference it makes? Because it's like phenomenal, the difference it makes. So it's just about giving that knowledge to parents.
Yeah, well, thank you so much, and I will put it all in the description below.
Amazing. Thank you.
Thank you.